Welcome to another episode of Called Bank Sports. Today we're going to talk about where each team in the West kind of stacks up and how we see the playoffs ending up. Well, not really ending up, but going into the playoffs, who are going to be the play-in teams, who are going to be locks, kind of what is the seeding going on. But first off, I want to give a shout out to Jarrell Brantley. He was my favorite player on the Jazz that didn't get any minutes, and we waived him. So I was not happy about that, but I hope he finds a roster spot in another team and can kickstart his career, maybe on a non-playoff contender where he can get more minutes. And I hope he has a good NBA career. I had fun watching him when he did play.
I definitely think he'll end up getting a spot on another team. I mean, it comes down to the fact, that the Jazz have like the 8 to 10 spots that are probably going to be filled up with veterans, and in the end, who do you want on the end of the bench? Do you want rookies? Like, it's kind of nice to have them there, but at the same time, like, veterans are probably going to provide better backup minutes and be able to go in and play a lot better. So I do think in the end that, like, right move by the Jazz, but it really sucks to see him go. Like, he was a great guy and would have been fun to have him on the team longer.
Yeah, 100%. But like you said, when you contend for a championship, you can't keep everyone. You have to find people who are ready to play right now. And he wasn't always
there's
ready
15 spots. Yeah. There's 15 spots, so you can only do what you can do. But today we're going to get into it. We've had it requested to do our breakdown and predictions for the West. So we're going to go through and the first thing we're going to do is knock out the teams that, don't count, as I hopefully fix my camera. Which has been, okay, there we go. Hopefully it stays on for the whole episode this time. But there's 15 teams. I mean, only 10 teams have a chance with the play-in and everything. So Dale and I discussed a bit before the show who just to get rid of completely. We're looking at the Rockets, the Thunder, and the Kings and the Timberwolves. Both have the talent and the ability to get in there, but they don't even deserve any discussion at this point with how they just keep playing. It's just they've had miserable seasons. So those are the 4 teams that we are getting rid of.
Yeah, and like with the Kings, I love De'Aaron Fox, but he had an amazing season last year. He might come out and score 29 points a game, like 12 assists. Like, even if he goes crazy, I still don't think they have the coaching staff or the roster there to get into the playoffs with how tough the Western Conference is. So
yeah, it's kind of like
unless
that
there's some crazy trade, I can't see the Kings in there.
It's kind of like a Bradley Beal situation over there in Washington, right? Like, they didn't make the play-in last year because of just how bad the bottom of the East was. But the West is way too deep to just have someone like Fox come in and carry your team to the play-in. Like Westbrook, I will give Westbrook some credit there, but like Beal was able to do last year.
Yeah. So those teams, that's the last time we're going to talk about them this episode. So let's move up, and here are we've kind of narrowed it into 2 other sections. We have the who we think are definitely going to make the playoffs, and we have 7 of those teams. So one of those definite going to make the playoffs
6.
Has to be a play-in.
I've got 6.
Oh, you have 6? Okay, I have 7.
6, so, well,
I'm curious where the difference is. And then I have 4. Nate has 5 teams of these are the real contenders for the play-in game.
For 9 and
as
10,
the lower seeds
specifically, yeah. So I know we're in agreement on Memphis, the Blazers, the Spurs, and the Pelicans.
Yes.
And the Spurs we threw on there because you can't discount Popovich, but I don't see it happening. But to be honest, I don't want to have any, Ja Morant slander, but I do not understand the majority of the moves that Memphis has made this offseason in the slightest. And I feel like they've blown things up way too much for me to have that level of faith in them that they'll make the play-in. So, but it's kind of like looking at it, like the Memphis or the Spurs have to not make it, in my opinion, because I think the Blazers and the Pelicans will, which puts us at 9 teams. So I'm just not sure which team I think I have less faith in the Spurs, but those are where, like, those are my 10 seeds. Is it's going to be the Spurs and Memphis. that's kind of where I'm at.
That barely slip out of it and don't.
Yeah, one of them's gonna make it, and one of them's gonna barely slip out.
Cool, and it's probably going to be the Spurs. I think they're the least talented roster, but like you said, they still have Greg Popovich, and it's not like they don't have anyone on their roster. So
yeah,
they can make stuff happen, but I'm not expecting much from them this year.
The one team, so the Blazers are also the other wild card where if Damian Lillard isn't on the team, then like
that's true.
I still think they'll make the play-in. I still think they'll be better than Memphis or the Spurs, and they'll have had Lillard long enough to have a decent enough record. But that's like the Blazers. I'm probably sticking the Blazers in at 8, even if they lose Lillard. And I'm probably going to be going. In the end, I'm probably going Memphis, Pelicans, Blazers. And I know the Pelicans haven't made a bunch of great moves this offseason either, but Zion is just better than Ja, is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think that's an interest. I think the Grizzlies' overall roster is better when it comes to winning games. Because we saw them play against the Jazz, like they were gritty, they fought. I agree with you. They don't have as much talent, though. And then Zion is incredible. Brandon Ingram. He's a tough player to play against. I'm actually shocked that they haven't pulled off, like they haven't really been a solid playoff contender with those two. But
I mean,
maybe this is the year.
This is the year. New coach, right? So hopefully a new coach is able to get them in a better spot. But here's the team that I think could possibly be a play-in team again that no one's talking about. And I'm probably slotting them in at 7 or 8. But I think the Warriors have a decent chance of falling a lot farther than people think. Just because
they are the biggest question mark on, like, I think it's them or the Mavs, honest. Like, and this might be me being too low on the Mavs free agency offseason moves, but I think the Warriors have a ton of question marks, and the Mavs just don't have a ton around Luka unless Kristaps steps up. But go ahead with the Warriors.
I honestly have more faith in KP stepping up than I have in Draymond Green beginning to contribute to the offense in Golden State again. And, season's going to start in October 19th, 20th. And you're not going to have Klay Thompson back for, 2.5 months. Like, maybe he'll be back by Christmas, but I feel like that was kind of a rumor started, like, from what I picked up, is that's what people want to be true, and that's where that rumor came from. But mid-January is the most realistic shot. So when you're looking at not having him for the first 2 to 3 months of the season, and then you're going to have February, March, and a bit of April, like 3 months of him. So not having Klay for half the season is big. And I don't think the Warriors are going to, I don't think the rookies, not the Wookiees, are gonna step up enough for the Warriors. So the Mavs could definitely fall, but I honestly see the Mavs as a top 5 seed just because they have everyone healthy that they had last year. They might have not had a great offseason, but the Clippers are more likely to fall because they don't have Kawhi Leonard, and I don't think we're going to see him the whole year. And the Nuggets did play the end of last season amazing without Murray. Like, the end of the regular season, they did a really good job. So I don't want to say because they don't have Murray, they're falling down to like 6 or 7. I just don't know how they're going to do, since obviously you saw everyone exhausted without Murray in the finals. And there's going to be more breaks built into the regular season this year. But I'm still thinking that they're going to fall out of home court. I'm not sure. It'll be interesting. Like, the West is so hard to pick. Just like nobody had the Jazz or Suns as top 2 seeds last year. I honestly think we're going to do a horrendous job of picking these teams.
Yeah, but looking at the West, though, it's tough even with these injuries. But who's a real championship contender coming in? Like the Warriors, I would be shocked if they come and win. Because, like you said,
Yeah.
Clay's out for such a long time. And they don't have the same roster built around them that they did during the dynasty. Like it's not to the same depth. You look at the Clippers, their best players out probably the whole season. Nuggets, is Jamal Murray out the entire season or just most of it?
He might be coming back in March or April. Emphasis on might, though.
But like
so
that's like
if he's lucky, he'll
be
have
the same
a month.
Jamal Murray in the playoffs.
Probably not. No.
The Jazz, as long as like we don't have any current major injuries, just a couple that might be nagging throughout the season. Suns, same story. Lakers, I think they're the same story, but I think the players who keep getting injured are their best players. Westbrook has never gotten injured, but like, are you going to trust Westbrook to lead you to a championship?
I'm trying to put how I feel about the Lakers into words. Since last year, I wasn't super high on the Suns, and obviously that was a bad take. Like, part of that was Chris Paul injury history, and that definitely hurt them in the playoffs. But looking at it, it's like the Lakers. I mean, you're right about injuries. You're right about how I'm not super high on Westbrook. How they have a lot of old players around. They have the oldest team in the NBA. So they're going to have to be playing their old players significant minutes. It's not like you get to play Dwight Howard for 12 minutes a game. He's probably going to be playing 15 to 20. And so who's going to get injured? How is that going to hurt their depth? I'm not a big Russell Westbrook as a winner fan looking at him winning a championship. So maybe they have a great regular season team and maybe they're a top 3 seed, but I'm also not going to be shocked if they fall down into the play-in tournament again.
I think if what they should shoot for is that 3 seed, because that's you're losing enough games, meaning you're resting your players. Hopefully,
yeah.
Another thing with the Lakers, though, is you said that the oldest, one of their youngest players is Anthony Davis, who has now been in the league long enough to be considered a veteran, and he also has injury issues.
Yeah,
so it's when you have an old team, you rely on the young guys to be reliable, and one of the younger guys isn't reliable when it comes to injuries.
It's really not. If I'm being so, I mean, I think we both did we slate Warriors in at 7? Is that our official?
So right now, what do we have from bottom up? I think Warriors at 7 is reasonable.
Yeah, I think we went Memphis at 10, Pelicans at 9, Blazers at 8, Warriors at 7.
I like that, and depending on how the Clippers do and how the Warriors do without Clay, because Clay's coming back and Kawhi's probably not. So
yeah,
Clippers Warriors might be switched, and Mavs.
You want to put Clippers
if Tim Hardaway Jr. has the same year, like you said, Mavs are probably top 5.
Yeah.
If their players don't step up, I could see the Mavs being right in that conversation with them.
Yeah, I'm good to put an LA team at 6. And if I'm going to put an LA team at 6, it should probably be the Clippers. That's my prediction. We're going to put Los Angeles in 2 spots with no clarification.
Hey, and what we can do, we can just have them 3 and 6, and just it doesn't really matter in the first round.
It doesn't. It's the Battle of LA in the first round. No, here's the thing. Paul George is going to have an amazing regular season. And I'm interested to see how much he'll end up resting, how much load management will come in. But without Kawhi Leonard, Paul George is my sneaky pick for MVP. Because there's not going to be Kawhi
put
to
the money down now, because if you win that, you'll make bank.
Maybe. Well, we'll consider. Him, and obviously, I mean, if I'm putting money down on someone, at least $10 is going down on Donovan Mitchell. Just got to show some love for him. But so if we put Clippers, so here's the thing. If we're putting Clippers at 6, I think in the end, I'm going to put Nuggets at 5. I think that's where the Nuggets would come in for me.
And this is, I feel like this is tough because there are a lot of current injuries. We don't know what kind of injuries are going to happen for current teams. So obviously, like if we get this right, that would be incredible. But there's going to be injuries to other contenders that, like you said, the Lakers may lose LeBron James for half the season, and then they're down where the Warriors are, and then the Warriors may just come out on fire, and then they're up at the 3 or 4 seed. So
yeah. Well, like I said earlier, nobody predicted the seeding order last year. Like, and I don't feel confident in what I'm saying, but like I definitely feel like it's plausible. So, like once you put the Nuggets at 5 just because Jamal Murray's out, the question for me really comes down to Mavericks, Suns, or Lakers.
So this is interesting because I'm looking at the teams left.
Yeah.
Coming into this, I did not think the Jazz were going to be a first seed again. I would have been shocked if the Suns were a first seed again. But looking at that, like, are the Mavs going to be the first seed? Probably not.
They could be. They legitimately could be. If KP comes out and all of a sudden is balling, which like I watched a video, I think it was by AM Hoops, talking about how like if we're being honest, this is the first time that the KP has had a full off season that he was healthy, like preparing for the Mavericks.
Interesting. I haven't thought about that.
And so like that really could happen. I don't think it's going to, but there is a chance that we've written KP off too soon.
And to be fair, as much as I love Rick Carlisle, he was not playing to KP's strengths at all. He was playing KP like he's a stand in the corner 3-point shooter. And so everyone was talking about how bad his defense was, how like everything went down last season. But if in your head, like you're a past all-star, you're probably haven't even reached your prime yet, and then your head coach is treating you like that, like even if you're like mentally trying to try your hardest, it's going to be hard to really put out your best product. So I still don't think he's going to be 25 points a game, Kristaps. I think he's going to come in and bring his 20 a game, and I'm hoping he just comes in and steps up on defense, and that's where the Mavs could use him a ton, is his rim protection.
Yeah. So here's going to be my take. I think that injuries and just a lack of really like of any like young depth, I'm going to put the Lakers at 4. That's my call there. I don't know who you're going to put there.
I don't know. There's so many question marks. I feel like Lakers at 4th isn't unreasonable.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if they stay healthy all year, I think Lakers in the first
they're going to be the 1 or 2 seed. Like they're going to be, just because they have enough talent that it'll work.
And so because of that, I don't think they're going to be injured so much that they'll drop down to 4th. I think they're probably a 2 seed, just because I think they'll be healthy enough during the season to keep it up. But then again, like I thought the Lakers were a top 3 seed last year, and they weren't. So,
I mean that was solely based on injuries, and they weren't even healthy in their first round playoff series against the Suns. So, if we're gonna put the Lakers at 2, then probably Mavericks at 4. Mavs get a home court series against the Nuggets to start out.
That'd be a good series.
That would be. Are we gonna lock it in, Mavs at 4?
Yeah, I like Mavs at 4. I like I said, these Nuggets include like 1 through 5 is probably can move anywhere. I agree with you that Nuggets are probably going to be lower on that 1 through 5, like a 4 or 5 seed. But anyone, like thinking about it, anyone, Suns, Mavs, Lakers, Jazz, I wouldn't be shocked if they have a 1 seed, but I also wouldn't be shocked if they have the 4 seed.
No, the top
just
7
teams
and
stuff.
The top 7 teams, like even with everything I've said about the Warriors, they could light it up the first half of the year and get home court by having Clay come in to like to firm things up at the end,
Because Steph Curry is still Steph Curry. He's incredible.
And I'm pretty confident that that's not going to happen. Like, I'm pretty confident that the play-in is going to stay the play-in. But overall, I'm definitely like, the top 6 teams could end up anywhere. I mean, that's just how this is all working out. So I'm good to put the Mavs in at 4. And then here's the interesting take, right? So Chris Paul has had a lot of health issues his whole career. And he managed to miss 1 or 2 games all of last regular season. But then allegedly it seems like definitely had a bit of an injury against the Lakers that held him out. And then maybe like a hand or a wrist injury down the line that he played through. But overall, I do not expect Chris Paul to be healthy enough. And I do not think Devin Booker has arrived to the point that I am comfortable putting them in a 1 or a 2 seed.
Yeah, I agree with you here because, like, Chris Paul, he did show he could be mostly healthy last year. He did have a couple small things, but he played almost every game in the regular season. Granted, it was a shorter season, but it was a much more compact season, so that might have been tougher. He had the longest playoff run of anyone, and so that's going to take a toll. And so coming in, if the Suns don't actively try to rest him, which they won't because Chris Paul won't let them, he's going to get injured again. And so maybe he'll be healthy for the playoffs and they might have another great playoff run, but I agree. I can't see him as a 1 or a 2 because of those injury concerns. So, and it sounds like we kind of penciled in the Lakers at 2.
I think we have.
So does that mean the Jazz are the 1 seed again?
And here is why the Jazz are the 1 seed, for me at least. So if you look at continuity, who has continuity? The Jazz and the Suns. Would you put the Mavs in that boat, or?
I don't know. No, I wouldn't. New head coach.
So the Jazz and the Suns have continuity. I'm not putting the Nuggets or the Clippers in there because, yes, they do have, well, maybe not the Clippers, but they're both missing a star player for the majority of the regular season at least. So once I'm down there, then it's like the Lakers are going to be super talented, but we discussed our age and injury concerns, which, to be fair, we are concerned about Mike Conley's health. Like, that's a legitimate concern we have. And the Jazz did get a bit older. Rudy Gobert could be, knock on wood, like, he hasn't been injured for a while. And there was a point in his career at the beginning where there was some injury history concerns. So is this the year where Gobert goes down, which I'm much happier. I do think Whiteside would be able to step into starting minutes. But does that happen, and how does that hurt Jazz continuity? But in the end, I just think Donovan's going to come in even better than last year. I think he's going to put up MVP type numbers. I really do. I think this is the year where we see him averaging close to 30. And just in the end, the West is so chaotic and no one's going to get their picks right. So why don't we put the Jazz at number 1? Like, I can make a debate. And what it really comes down to is there's so much parity between those top 6 and 7 teams. Like, Paul George could come out and have an MVP season and the Clippers could end up with the 1 seed. And I would be floored. But that's not out of the realm of possibility. Right? Like, the Warriors, it could be so competitive that the Warriors stay just close enough and Klay comes back in and they go on another tear like they did in the 73-win season, which is still probably not going to happen. And they could be a top 3 seed. It's just so hard for me to feel confident in anything that I feel like it's almost just creating kind of tiers, putting teams in there and just hoping for the best.
Yeah. And here's my argument both for and against with the Jazz, like the Jazz being the 1 seed. Argument for is based off what we've seen last season, and based off of the new players on the roster. Like, obviously, I think the roster's better this year. If they play the same way they did last year with that same system, I think they're probably the 1 seed.
Yeah.
With how they were shooting during the year, they're not going to lose a ton of games. And with how tight the West is, it's not like there's going to be one team who wins 70 games. I don't see any team in the league doing that next year. I think the league's competitive enough to not see that. So the Jazz, if they play like that, I think they're a high 50s win team, and they'll walk away with the 1st seed. My argument against, though, is if you look at the Bucks, and we made a video about what the Jazz need to learn from the Bucks situation and how the Bucks won, because the Bucks were the best regular season team for several years in the East, but then they couldn't get it done in the playoffs. And I don't think that was a load management thing. I think it was the exact same problem that the Jazz have, where Quinn Snyder, he figured out an amazing system on how to win a bunch of games. But when you come in with a system and you don't deviate from it very much, you come into the playoffs, and a good team like the Clippers can figure it out and break the system when you give them enough games. And so the Jazz, I think they're going to come in and they'll have that system ready. They can pull it out when they need to, but I think they're going to come in and start experimenting, and I think they'll get off to a slow start.
That's fair.
And I think, because now there's like, okay, we won games in the regular season. That was fun, but it'd be a lot more fun to win a championship. And so I think they're going to be okay with losing some games, especially at first, to figure out some stuff. So they have a full deck of cards ready to go into the playoffs and play chess with anyone who wants to play. So, but even if they come in and start experimenting, like you said, Donovan Mitchell's good enough. And if we stay healthy, even with experimentation, we could still walk away with the 1st seed.
Yeah, totally. Having a lot of camera issues today, so apologies to everyone. I'm gonna try to get that fixed here for the next episode. But I agree with you. Like, I mean, what it really comes down to is, I don't know, since obviously saying the Jazz are going to be the 1 seed means they're going to have another incredible year, and that's going to involve the Lakers to not be super great, but we did still put them at 2. But saying the Suns are going to be the 1 seed means they're going to have another incredible year. Then I don't think anyone's going to put the Mavs, Nuggets, Clippers, Warriors, Blazers, Pelicans, or Memphis at the 1.
I'm all about Memphis.
Those are, hey, and maybe the Mavericks are going to be good enough. Maybe the Nuggets or Warriors or Clippers will stay in contention long enough and then pick up their star player towards the end and make a push. But in the end, it's not so crazy to put the Jazz at 1. So I do think that's what I do think that's totally fine to put it there. To put them there. Obviously, that's going to be our thumbnail. Jazz are the 1 seed again, or something like that. But it'll be good. I'm excited.
Yeah. And so just to read off what we got and to sum up the video, because we kind of went backwards, it was probably hard to follow. But 1 seed through 10 seed in the West, we've decided will be starting at 1, the Jazz, the Lakers, the Suns, the Mavericks, the Nuggets, the Clippers, the Warriors, the Blazers, the Pelicans, and then the Grizzlies. So let us know what you guys would choose if it's any different. It's tough, putting it at specific seeds like Nate was talking about is pretty tough. It's more like you can put them into tiers.
Yeah. So here's the thing that I'm going to end this off with, and we can answer this at a later point. Despite all of this, despite looking at going through all the playoff contenders, do you see a team that actually is capable of beating a healthy Nets team? So we'll answer that down the road. You let us know in the comments. If the Nets are healthy, does anyone in the West even have a chance? So thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys have a great weekend. We're super excited that we're, I think, a month away officially, or around there, from the NBA season starting. So please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't. And go Jazz!